Come on in. Oh, come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come in the name. Come in the means. Come in the thing. Jerry, come in. Misty, come in. Jada. Come on in, Tracy Blackman. Come on in, Cynthia Valerie. Won't you come on in? Elisa, come on in. Yeah. LaDonna, come on in. Lavita, come on in. LaToya, come on in. If you my Facebook friend, Janessa, come on in. Caitlin, come on in. Angela, come on in. Terrence, come on in. Cause you know it's lit. Hey, won't you come on in over there on YouTube? Won't you come on in over there on Facebook? Won't you come on in? Hey, just pick it with your favorite YouTube friend. Hey, won't you come on in over there on Facebook? Won't you come on in over there on YouTube? Come on in to your favorite YouTube friend. Come on in, Nick and Justin, come on. Why don't you think you're loyal? Come on in, come on in. Won't you, Adrian, come on in. April, come on in. Chantel, come on in, Jesse, come on, Nikki, Justin, Adrian, Ramona, come on in, Jada, come on in, hey, come on in there on YouTube, come on in over on Facebook, come on in, come on in. Come on in, y'all. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Come on in, come on in, come on in. So today, on the show today, we have my cousin, and I want to brag because she's my cousin and she's a college graduate and she got all these degrees and all that, and you know, and she is an elephant, you know what I'm saying, roll tied up in this thing, and that's on period. And that's on period. And you know, I'm just proud to have somebody of her stature and of her expertise on my show today. And I'm proud, you know, that this is my people. We got the same blood, you know, and all that. So, without further ado, introduce yourself to the people, girl.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lacosta, and currently I serve as the Mental Health Services Coordinator for the Perry County School District here in the state of Alabama.
All right. So first I want to start off with what made you choose this field? What made you choose this to want to help with mental health?
Well, honestly, I just started taking classes, and when I started taking the classes, that kind of drew me in further, and I've just in so many ways I've abandoned my English degree, and now that my feet are wet in the world of mental health, I can't seem to dry them off. So now, I got one foot. I'm kind of, what's the word I want to use? I'm getting to use my degrees in both education and mental health here in Alabama.
Okay.
So I'm getting a taste of both.
So you're doing it for like elementary school, high school, middle school, or all of them?
Oh,
Okay.
I am the mental health service coordinator for the entire district. for Perry County schools, all grade
Okay.
levels.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because this is a question that I think, and probably something that people are dealing with right now. With you being in the school system, since the children like have been out of school, because all kids are not back in school. Some kids are in school, but all aren't. But when they were really out of school, how do you think keeping the kids out of school and keeping the kids where they had to be kind of, confined to their homes, how do you think that affected their mental health?
Um, it's looking like it's affecting their mental health in negative ways, especially for those students who live in poverty, low income areas, and who may be dealing with things at home, or they're learning things about home that they didn't know existed because they would be in school.
Right, right,
And so now that they're at home all day, they make it's possible that they're learning things that are going on in the home that they never knew was going on in the home. And then there are some who know of negative things going on in the home, and they use going to school as their escape. So
right.
they don't have that place of peace anymore.
Wow. And what do you find that children most find that they're surprised about that goes on in their home when they're not there, since they're there more now?
Some students are probably learning of drug use, physical abuse, domestic violence type situations that they had never seen before, because those things may have taken place during school hours and they would be in school. Some, when it comes down to, just say if it's a single parent, uh, 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 just say a stay at home mom, if she has multiple people that she deal with.
Mm.
It's
They
it,
find out,
it's
they
probably a
find out
laundry list of things.
with my cuz. Now, I understand you professional, but I'm gonna say it how it needs to be said. They find out that their mama is a hoe. Right.
Your words.
Okay. Okay. All right.
They might be learning that dad is a drug dealer. Or
Right.
mom is a drug dealer. Or mom and dad are drug dealers.
Right. Mama and daddy horn. One horn out the window and one horn out the back door. Okay, come on. Okay. So look. So how do you think, have you had to deal with situations where because I want to get like children out of the way first. So have you had to deal with situations now where the children are coming up hungry, or have you have sexual abuse? Have you seen a rise in sexual abuse since the children are home more often? Have you seen any like anything with that?
So far, the sexual abuse has not been reported, but when it comes down to the hunger,
Mm-hmm.
for some families, for some children, that's where they get their meals. They get their meals at school. At least two of their meals, breakfast and lunch, come from school, and they may get dinner at home. But that's definitely come up as far as any type of abuses that are going on. Personally, I suspect, but nothing has been confirmed.
Okay. Okay. So with what are some, okay, let me ask you, how are the students, how do you see students, their work ethic, as far as like, do you find that students are learning better? Do they, through virtual learning, or is it better for them to be in a classroom setting? And how has the grades been? Like, how has their the I guess how have they been doing in school as far as the grades with them doing virtual learning versus being in a classroom setting?
What I'm saying is the classroom setting works best for many of these children. And this is not just the school district that I'm working in, but just statewide, because they don't have anyone there physically present giving them this information, which is what they're used to. And
Mm-hmm.
then some of these educators are very good nurturers. So it's like they use their profession, but at the same time, because it's so female dominant, and the way that females are with children, that motherly piece comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and so they get to love on these kids, and hug them and kiss them and greet them, and show their attitude, these positive welcoming attitudes. I'm glad to see you today. And the kids get to share with their teachers, like, for example, coming back to school after Christmas, what they got for Christmas, what their sisters and brothers got for Christmas, what they had for Christmas dinner, things of that nature. They don't have that now. I mean, if they do, it's virtual, but it's not the same as up close in person.
So, how important do you think it is for them to have that amidst a pandemic? Do you think that it's worth putting? Because some people are back in school. Out here in Vegas, they're not back in school. Do you feel that it's worth putting the kids at risk if they go back to school and then they catch the virus?
No. I think they should continue virtually because this pandemic is real, is deadly, and even though, I mean, you can't compare breath in your body to failing a class.
Right,
You can make up your grade, but once life is gone, life is gone.
right.
And so the school systems have created avenues for children, for the students to explore if they fall behind. For those students who are learning better in the classroom, they provide space for those children to come to the school on certain days, and they do take all the necessary precautions when it comes to social distancing because there's not many children at the school. And so, what Perry County has done for those kids who are failing and need that hands on, face to face interaction, they've created time and space for those students to come. And they're not there all day, and they do provide breakfast and lunch for those students. But ultimately, at this point in this pandemic, virtual learning is safe.
Right. I feel like virtual learning is the safest too. Like even when they open school back up, my kids they're not going. They're not going back into a brick and mortar school setting. They might as well get prepared for this right here. What we doing?
Now,
So
for these parents who are choosing to send their children back to school, and it has nothing to do with the children failing. It's just either the child wants to come back to school or the parent wants the child to come back to school. Then there's the conversation that they have at home. If they come, of course, we welcome them. But people have different reasons for wanting to send their children back to school. Some of them just don't want their children at home with them.
and that's just the truth. Now some people just don't want to be bothered.
Right. And so
Because they
they're
ain't had to
probably
be bothered for so long, and then all of a sudden they got to be bothered. Let me ask you this. Have you seen the uptick in children getting put on medicine? Because, see, the children and stuff, the parents go up to the school and they cuss the teacher out. Oh, I know you ain't telling my baby doing this, my baby, that is not how my baby act, and all that. And then now that the child is at home They realizing that little imp needs some medicine. You see what I'm saying? So now they realizing that everything that the teacher was saying was true. So have you seen an uprising in children, parents coming forward saying, look, my son won't sit down, or my daughter won't sit down, and he keeps spinning.
Well, now, personally, this has nothing to do with my profession. Personally, medication should be the last resort, especially those children who have ADHD. ADHD medication, it does what it's supposed to do, but children are naturally energetic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like Cat Williams said on Pimp Chronicles, children supposed to like Skittles.
They do.
Children supposed to be energetic.
They're supposed to like shine stuff. And you know what? I think that a lot of people that, first of all, we just gonna keep it 100. A lot of people put their children on medicine. It be generations of children on medicine just to get a check. And that's true. And then you got people that ain't used to, they don't have no energy, they high, they drugged out and all that, and don't want to be bothered with the children. Mm-hmm. So they lazy, and the children are being children. They feel like, I can't deal with this child being this hyper like that. So then they take them to the doctor and they hyper, when in reality, you just probably shouldn't even have a child because you don't even got the mind, the mental capacity to even be bothered with the child.
I think children, well, PE ain't the same either.
It's not. It ain't even really physical like that.
Oh my goodness, these PE teachers. It's physical education for a reason.
Right.
Get up and be physically educated. But because physical education in schools have changed, and then parenting has changed.
Yes, it has.
And when it comes down to educators and parents trying to work together, the parents have shifted all of the responsibility to the educator, the teaching and the raising. Mm-hmm. There's nowhere in an educator's contract that says raise these children.
Right.
And so if things are in place at home, then maybe the teachers can serve as a reinforcement.
Right. And that's what they're supposed to. Right.
They're receiving their parenting at school. I mean, at home. They're also receiving the proper discipline at home. And then when they get to school, the educators can reinforce and reiterate what's taking place at home, these positive things at home. But instead, there are a lot of negative things going on at home.
Right.
And that's coming to school. And then the educator sometimes loses a lot of instruction time for discipline. And so every school district, some are on maybe 50-minute period, and then some might be on a modified block or a whole block. A block schedule, usually those classes usually run an hour and a half. It might be 4 classes a day. It just varies from school to school. And so whatever block schedule or periods schedule that schools are on, a lot of that time is lost trying to get the students in order.
Right.
So by the time the teacher can instruct, it's time for the students to pass class.
Right.
But for when it comes down to those kids who are medicated, some are too medicated. Some of those kids walk around the school like zombies.
Mm-hmm. It takes their personality away.
It does. Energy. Sometimes it takes away focus because some of those medications causes drowsiness. And so how you gonna learn and you sleep?
Right.
And some kids are on a number of different medications for a number of different diagnoses.
And the doctor will get paid, and the mama is too.
In some cases.
Wow. So we touched on some kids find out that their parents have substance abuse. So let's tap into substance abuse and mental health. How does mental health and substance abuse coincide with one another? Or how do you diagnose, how do you say a person is using drugs because they're mentally unhealthy? Like, does that go hand in hand?
Sometimes, um, sometimes and sometimes not. Sometimes the person can be taking prescribed medication for mental illness, and then there are some individuals who are just drug addicts. Sometimes the two overlap, and so those are called co-occurring. And so for those who are just drug addicts, they may come from a certain background. And maybe that's what's in their environment. Maybe they experienced something in their life that led them to drug use. And now, for some people who have prescription drugs, sometimes those drugs are used illicitly.
Right.
It's to the point now where marijuana is not necessarily the gateway drug anymore. Marijuana has been legalized in a number of states already. And so
Right.
if
Man.
marijuana is pretty much at the point to where it's not considered the gateway drug because it's legal in a lot of places, then what's now the gateway drug? In,
Pills.
in some cases, ADHD medication can be viewed as a gateway. I have worked with many clients in substance abuse. When doing their assessments, they travel back to their childhood when they started taking ADHD medication. And so
And
ADHD
always
medication,
being on a certain type of high.
right. And
Hmm.
ADHD medication is prescribed. So in order to keep that prescription going, you have to keep seeing your doctor. If those doctor's visits stop, but this person is trained to use this medication, it comes with training, just like potty training a person.
Hmm.
And so if this child starts out real young taking ADHD medication and they're growing up with ADHD medication, and for some reason those doctor's visits stop, okay, this child is used to taking this medicine. Some people end up resorting to the drug dealer.
Right.
And so the drug dealer, okay, ain't no prescription there. You gotta have some money. And so once they get used to a certain feeling, they
Right.
want to keep that feeling going.
Right. It's the feeling.
You're right.
Right. Wow. Okay. So what we were talking earlier, and we was talking about like how um, methamphetamine is so easy to make, and how you've seen an uprising in the black community because black people usually smoke a little weed, they be smoking crack, that's all shit. You know what I'm saying? That's what black people drugs was. We smoke weed and crack and Newports. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. So we was talking, and you was like, you're seeing an uptick in the black community starting to use meth.
Hmm.
Where do you think that's coming from?
There when an addict masters a certain high,
Okay.
it's like they don't get high no more from that, and so it becomes like chewing gum to them. Their tolerance increases.
You make me
And
want to spit
so
my gum, black. I'm chewing milk. Okay. All right.
Once a certain high is mastered,
Mm-hmm.
they've gone as far as they can go with that drug.
Right.
So they may try others to see if they can get past that high that they've mastered. They want to go a little higher, basically.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Mm.
some of them just start experimenting with different, and some of them get addicted to that next level. Some
Mm-hmm.
of them don't like how that next level make them feel, so they may
Drop back down.
drop back down until they can get brave enough to try something else.
Right. Right.
But meth has made its way into the black community. Meth is a very powerful drug. Um, the people, a lot from the clients that I've worked with who admitted to being meth addicts, all of them have in common that they like the way the drug makes them feel, happy and energetic.
Right.
And some of them have shared with me that they might stay high 2 weeks. They might stay up 2 weeks. You up 2 weeks doing what? Even God rested. And so, what you doing up 14 days straight? What are you doing? But when they crash, they may be asleep for days. You might think they dead. You got to go check on them, see if they still breathing. Some of them have told me they might stay up 2 weeks, and then when they come down, they sleep for a whole week. They might
Mm.
get up to use the bathroom. That's pretty much it. Drink something, and then just go back to bed. Get up, use the bathroom, get a drink of water, go back to bed. That's their routine for that entire week because they're coming off that high. And
Mm-hmm.
so some people, I mean, a lot of truck drivers use meth. Those over the road truck drivers, a lot of them use meth,
You know, I
especially
never thought about this.
because now if a person is involved in an accident with the truck driver, that truck driver gets drug tested,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of white truck drivers who are over the road truck drivers, they use meth.
That's why I don't be having no teeth. And you know they make all that money and they got no teeth. Because they use me. I see. It go hand in hand. They make all that money and you be like, how they got all that money? And then but they ain't got no teeth. That's why.
And a lot of over the road black truck drivers, they use either crack cocaine or powder cocaine.
I told
And
that
so,
black people stuff. That's what that you know.
now these truck drivers, they have a way of communicating with each other, even if they don't know each other.
Right.
And so now more black truck drivers, as well as, like we stated earlier, method is making its way into the black community. Now these black truck drivers, some of them are getting their feet wet with meth. Luckily, truck drivers are now having to do electronic logging. Some people know how to work around that electronic log so they can stay rolling. The more they roll, the more money they make. And so,
Mm-hmm.
the money is legit. But how you doing all this running? How you up like this? A lot of them be high. Some
Okay.
are functioning addicts,
That
and
makes
then
sense.
some, eventually the body is going to start giving down.
Right.
So if a truck driver is out there on the road and they run out of meth or cocaine, powder cocaine or crack cocaine, they coming down off their high. A lot of times that's when some of those accidents take place. And these people, these drivers, these people out here on the road in their cars and trucks and SUVs and stuff, they know these 18 wheelers, $1 million liability off the rip. So who can tell you you ain't in pain?
Right.
And there are some surgeons that will help you. They'll do a little incision,
Mm.
put you on so you can get that check
Mhm.
and break them off. The lawyers, all of them in cahoots. Everybody trying to get a come up. So you pull out there in front of that 18 wheel and pray that you don't die. And so you
Now look, don't none of y'all get out here and be the mix you know damn amphetamine and get out there and pull your damn your 1972 El Camino out in front of no truck and that your ass ain't gonna die. Don't do that. That ain't what we saying. Don't risk your life for $1 million. But if so happen you get hit and you survive, you see what I'm saying? Just
right.
so happen, you know you gonna come up.
That 1 million, it sounds real good to a lot of people.
I ain't running from no truck. But
Me?
it's people that will. Oh, and it's people that have.
Oh, it's a lot of them that have. There's a law firm out in Texas. The phone number is 1-800 I got hit.
What? But you know, but you know what you saying? What you're saying makes so much sense when you just think about it and you think about like how drug use and how it can coincide with truck drivers and the stuff that happen. London, you better sit your ass down. Look at London. Look at London. So let me go out on this road real quick.
Hey, my baby.
Um, so it makes a lot of sense, with when you coincide when you think about it. Okay, yeah, and when you think about like how some people do, some of the truck drivers do just be up.
Mhm.
So, how do you think that there is in a rural area? Do you find that there's more hard drug use in rural areas or more in the city?
I think I think they're tick for tack.
Okay.
I think it's pretty equal. I think city limits is more accessible, but people they can find some dope in the country too.
It's a lot of dope fiends.
And somebody knows somebody that knows somebody.
Mm-hmm.
All of that go hand in hand is word of mouth type stuff, and then they talk in code. They speak their own language when it comes down to it, because a lot of times they don't know who might be undercover, or if this person is an informant. And even though this person is a user, it used to be people used to have that little slang about snitches, but now it's why do 10 when you can tell on a friend?
Right. Woo! And that's on period.
And so these people, they said how, okay, if I tell on such and such, I can work out a deal with law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of that going on these days. You definitely have to be careful. And some of these addicts, I mean, I cannot stress enough. Addiction is real. It some people who are on the outside looking in, they're quick to say, "Oh, he needs to just leave that stuff alone." It is not that easy.
Do
It
you
is not.
do you think addiction is a disease?
It is a disease, but there are treatment centers, both outpatient and residential. Some addicts need residential settings because they need other drugs to wean them off drugs. That's what a lot of people who are addicted to opiates, pain medication, if they want help, methadone clinics are popping up in a lot of different places. But methadone clinics, they so discreet, they just so hidden and secluded, and you'd be surprised who own pain pills. Doctors, lawyers, nurses. Huh?
I ain't surprised. This will
And
get off the road, the good drugs.
and a lot of these methadone clinics, they some of them are hidden in plain sight. I've had interviews at methadone clinics. One of them over in Columbus, Georgia. I passed by that place like 6 times. It was in it was literally in a, a building that looked abandoned. And the GPS just kept telling me, you've arrived, you've arrived. And I'm like, where is the doggone clinic? It keeps saying I've arrived. Tiny letters on the front door with the name of the company, New Season, Methadone Clinic. I'm like, this just almost torn down building is the Methadone Clinic,
Hmm.
but so much traffic. And their hours of operation, they usually open like 4 in the morning and close around 1:30, or 2 in the afternoon, so that these people can come in and get their treatment before they go to work. So if they have to be at work at 8 o'clock, they're trying to get off pain medication.
Right.
And so they're going into these methadone clinics. Methadone is kind of wean them off the opiates. And so when it comes down to opiates, whew, there's still this opiate epidemic. Pain pills are prescribed. A lot of these people are just selling their prescriptions. And
Mm-hmm.
depending on what it is they're prescribed for their pain, there are a lot of different ones. Some pain pills might go for $50 a pill. So if your prescription is 30 pills and you selling 30 pills at $50 a pill, do the math.
Right.
But opiates literally take over the brain. It gives you credit for doing things that you really haven't done. That's why a lot of these opiate addicts look horrible.
So, give us an example of what you're talking about when you say that the drug make them give themselves credit for things that they really haven't done.
Take a bath.
So that's why you see the ones that be walking around with so much confidence and they be stinking and musty and dirty. It's because the drug been told them that they washed their ass today. Mm,
Exactly.
mm.
Or that, or brush their teeth. And sometimes eventually the teeth will decay when they don't receive. You have to have oral care.
Right.
But you on opiates, you think you brush your teeth. And then the way these people get so thin, losing all this weight, the opiate got you thinking you done ate something. You ain't ate nothing this week. That's just the truth. And
But
then they
the
sit down in front of the counselor talking about some. You sit there, you ask them, you the counselor, you ask them, when's the last time you had a meal? They ain't even thought about it.
mm.
They don't even know when the last time they actually put food in their mouth, because the opiates have taken over and got them thinking that they eating on a regular basis. You
And
get
I,
on that scale, you see your weight ain't where it was. Obviously, you ain't eating nothing.
so do you think that the being on the opiates it can cause body dysmorphia
Yeah,
where where
go
you
ahead.
where they could think that they look healthy
Yeah,
and but they're not.
opiates literally trick the brain.
Mm-mm-mm. That is sad,
And
Karen.
huh?
Oh, go ahead.
And it's a person can get addicted to opiates in as little as 5 days. That's less than a week. And so when these people get prescribed pain medication for whatever reason, if they had a tooth pull or back surgery or just some type of surgery and they get prescribed the real stuff and they using it, a lot of times they don't even be aware that they're addicted. They just keep taking them. And so it's easy for opiates to take over the brain, and it basically messes up the endorphins. Endorphins are natural; they're naturally in the brain, and the endorphins, the serotonin, and the dopamine that gives the body all these types of sensations to feel happy, sad, feel like you're hungry, all of those things.
Mhm.
Opiates take over that, and so people they start going down fast. It does not take long because it doesn't take long for them to get addicted.
Right.
So if it doesn't take long for them to get addicted, then it's not going to take long for them to just go downhill.
So what do you think that what what type of support system do you feel is needed for somebody to even begin to come off something as strong as opiates or methamphetamine? What do you think has to? What have you seen that has had to take place in order for a person to be like, you know what, I quit. I'm tired.
For some people, for for some people, it takes tough love from family. Sometimes addicts will wear their family members out. They steal from them. They lie to them. They take advantage in so many ways, and the family. Some families may be supportive at first, but then it eventually starts to bring down the family.
Right.
And it's some people. My attitude, I ain't no need of all us going down. So
Right. Somebody need to have enough sense to tell what's going on.
and so I mean that the person, the addict, is gonna have to. For some of them, I put it like that. Some of them will say, "I need help. Help me." But then there's some of them who don't have that mindset to seek help. They just they're fine. Now these functioning addicts, I have mixed feelings about functioning addicts because if they do their drug, but they can still get on with life, they still get up and go to work, they still take care of business. Those people, they probably can't quit cold turkey. They may have to have like a step down process or a weaning process
Right.
because they function with it. Now, and then there's some functioning addicts who probably don't need to come off. This is this is their help
Stay high.
because if they ain't no good when they low, and you can get along with them when they high, because they function like that. They so, I mean, they don't miss a beat. I mean, it could go either way. Now, for some people, just say a functioning addict who's trying to quit or trying to quit cold turkey, the the withdrawal can be crucial. It can be deadly. There are different symptoms of withdrawal. Some people seize. Some people come out of those seizures. Some people don't. Some people have heart attacks. Their hearts just pretty much explode. It just depends on what they're on. A lot of health problems come from drug use. Even if the person stopped using drugs, the damage that it has caused to their organs sometimes is irreversible. Some
Right.
people may have started using drugs when they were young, and it went on over into adulthood, and here it is 30 years later, they done quit, but that bad heart ain't going nowhere.
Right.
And so a lot of people, like I was saying, some of them want help, but they don't know how to get it. They don't know how to stop. Some of them don't know who to turn to. They don't know who will actually help them. Residential settings can be very expensive, especially for those individuals who don't have health insurance, but it's beneficial. And then some people, they just never kick the habit 100%. They might do very well for a lot of years and then end up falling off the wagon. Even if they've been clean 15 years, that's a long time to be clean. And then something happens and they fall off the wagon and then they have to start over. Some
Right.
people fall off the wagon hard. And then, counseling is important, especially for those people who are dealing with things, with inner things that may have happened to them in their childhood, whether it was physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, that have just played a role, and they chose to get on drugs to try to help with that pain.
Hmm.
But once they come down off that high, the pain is still there. The
Right.
issue is still there. When a counselor is trying to pull back the layers of the onion with a person, you have to work at the patient's pace.
Right.
It is not about the counselor. It can't be done expeditiously. Sometimes it takes months on top of months. Those months turn into years trying to help this person. And sometimes this person can be your client for 2 years and you still haven't pulled back all the layers of the onion. And so a lot of people come from hurtful places and they don't want to talk about it, especially if their hurtful place is family.
Hmm.
Sometimes family will bring you down quicker than strangers because know family know your strengths and your weaknesses.
Right.
Strangers don't know anything about you. And so the family, and a lot of times people trying to please family, you have to live your truth. If you don't live your truth, you be crazy as hell. Some things are just bigger than man. And so my approach to counseling, I come from a spiritual place and I also come from a realistic place. Everybody ain't gonna agree with you. Everybody ain't gonna agree with what you do. But you're responsible for your own happiness. So if you sit around trying to make the next person happy while you miserable, that alone can run you crazy. Sometimes that causes people to gravitate to drugs. And it might start off with something small and then end up with something bigger. Another drug that's showing up in communities, heroin and fentanyl. I'm like, my goodness, where they get fentanyl from?
That's what Prince died from, man.
Prince,
Prince died from fentanyl. Ain't that stuff you could touch it and it can go in your skin and kill you. You can go through your bloodstream and kill you.
girl, that's cocaine can do that. Meth can do that.
Through your skin?
It can seep through your pores.
Oh wow.
You do not have to
Ingest it
smoke it.
internally.
You don't have to smoke it, inject it, inhale it, snort it, none of that.
Oh hell no.
With meth, if meth is vaporized, basically somebody's cooking meth. If you go into that room where that meth is vaporized, if that vapor gets into your pores,
Mm-mm.
you can test positive for meth. And so, and it's the same way with cocaine. You can touch it, and you can test positive for cocaine.
Wow.
But fentanyl is in the family with opiates. It's a pain medication. Um, but people they using it illicitly, like heroin. It's in that heroin family. Heroin is very pure. Sometimes it's hard to measure heroin because it's so pure. Um, that's why if you hear that there's a drug bust and heroin was involved, and those people might get a lot of, if they go to prison, they get a very lengthy prison sentence because of the purity of heroin and the damage that heroin can do. So it
Of
doesn't
course.
take a whole lot of heroin. Like some people might lace their weed with heroin. And so that weed can kind of, it's like the weed can kind of break down the heroin, but the heroin kind of spruce up the weed, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah, like one is a high, making you high, and one is bringing you down, kind of like to balance it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but there are some people who use just straight heroin.
They're
But
the ones that
some
be
people,
nodding.
huh?
Those are the ones that be nodding.
I call them gangster. If you can handle some heroin with it's potent. It's very, very potent. And I can't stress enough how pure it is. And so if you can handle it, I mean, I salute you. But fentanyl is in that same family with heroin. Those are what I consider to be just top of the chart narcotics. Now, heroin has been around for a very long time, and don't get me wrong, fentanyl has too, but fentanyl hasn't been in a lot of communities.
Like mainstream. It's becoming more of a mainstream drug.
And it's getting to that point,
Right.
which is, it can be scary, especially if there are children in the home and elderly people in the home. But I don't know why these people, those who don't have problems, because there are some people they ain't got no problems for real. They just want to get high.
Mm-hmm.
And
Me.
it's the synthetic drugs, um, the incense that some people are using. These people, you ever seen a person who smoked some synthetic marijuana and how they ate?
Rolling around on. Now look, I was gonna get to that because I had somebody say that their family member was on T2. I think that was Octavia. What? Let me ask you. What are the effects of the mind? How bad does that stuff affect your mind after you come off of it? And what is it in the mind that makes them feel like they need to be grounded to the ground? That's what it looks like to me when I watch it. I be laughing. You know, what is it that makes them feel like they need to be on the ground and rolling around? And like it's like seeing a need to be on earth, on the earth. You know what I'm saying? What make you do that?
Um, every case is different. I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but some people take all their clothes off and want to run around naked. And then there's some people. One guy I work with, the effect, it's so instant. He just and just died off the picnic table. I mean, it's not funny, but
Yes, it is.
I tell you, he had the perfect black eye.
No. How he hit it? How he hit it, Miss Reedy?
He just fell off the picnic table. Didn't even get the exhale. Just
Lord have mercy, Jesus.
and then some of them they see stuff that ain't there. One of them, that thing just went to holler talking about Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming. Don't you see it? He's in a white carriage being pulled by white horses. He's coming, I tell you. I'm looking around. I'm
Cause
trying to
you
see.
want to be ready when he come. Like, Lord, you done came back and you ain't blow the trumpet or nothing.
They hauled him right back to jail. That, and some of them, they just some of them run into walls. They will run their heads into brick walls. Some of them will dive off their bunks. Some of them will get in a fight with themselves. Only thing I can tell you is stand back because he finds somebody. That drug got him thinking that he's in a physical altercation with somebody. And some of them, they when they do come to, they don't remember anything. They don't remember a thing. There's some videos on YouTube. They call it wigging out. There's some videos on YouTube of people wigging out. And I mean, it's not funny, but at the same time, it is because this stuff is it has on the pack not fit for human consumption.
Right.
But somebody decided to set it on fire and smoke it anyway. And so these are the results of what you just
may cause you to run into a wall and beat your head into a wall or dive off a cliff or a picnic table onto the concrete.
run out in traffic.
Mm-mm-mm.
I mean, and it's so instant. They start wigging out instantly. It ain't no smoke some weed and just lay back. They hit this synthetic and they just go running all around. And I'm like, I ain't even finna go over there. I'm let him pass out. And then we'll see about it. Because I ain't trying to get hit or punched or just some of them they just have a fit. And the fits it just be different. Some
Because you
I mean,
don't know mentally what they're seeing.
huh?
Because you don't know mentally what they're seeing. Mentally, they're seeing something
Right.
that you can't see.
Exactly. And sometimes it lasts for just a short time, and then for some of them, that episode can go on for a while. Only thing, my advice is just stand back. Sometimes there are two people who, they might be passing it back and forth, smoking it, and as soon as it hits them, they might go from laughing, talking noise to fight, and then they don't even remember fighting.
Wow.
They look at them, say, "How I get all these scratches on me?" And look in the mirror and see their faces bruised up, and somebody have to tell them, "Oh, you and old boy got into a fight while y'all was smoking." They have no recollection of it. But this is what they like to do. Some drugs make the addict paranoid. I don't see how you can enjoy a high paranoid.
Correct. I was just talking to a friend, and she was talking about like how crack makes you. We were just talking about like the effects of drugs or whatever, and she was just talking about like how crack makes you paranoid and how it doesn't last long, and that's why you see a crackhead up at all times of the night because the high doesn't last long. And I never knew that. I was like, so I'm thinking all this time that when you on crack, you high for like an hour or something.
No.
I did not know. She was like, you can be high for like 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And that's all it lasts. And then that's why crackhead is up all night because they're constantly trying to get high because it don't last no time. I didn't know that.
Um, crack cocaine, that's one of the things that separate crack cocaine and powder cocaine. Powder takes you a little further with your high. It keeps you high a little longer.
Okay.
And then sometimes it depends on the strength of the crack. It depends on the strength of the powder cocaine. What was it cut with? Or what was it made with? Because everybody's ingredient ain't the same.
Right.
And so because those highs have like a time limit, some people resort to stronger drugs to keep them higher longer. And so that's where meth takes place for some people. They're the uppers and they're the downers. Marijuana is a downer,
Mm-hmm.
a depressant. Crack, powder cocaine, heroin, um, meth, all of those are stimulants. They're uppers.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're using an upper, sometimes that contributes to heart disease because the heart gets to pounding. And some people are used to it. They know what's causing their heart rate to increase and they stay calm. And then there's some people who overdose the first time using, they want to try this, but they don't know how to measure this.
Right.
So some people may overdose and die in their first use. And sometimes it's because of a heart attack that they had or a stroke that they had from the drug use. There are some people who start on certain drugs, they start with a small amount, an amount that is less likely to be deadly. And then they work their way up from there. And then there are some people, even with those small doses, depends on where you are with your health. Some people have health problems and don't know it. And
Right.
you out here trying to do dope. And so,
And
a lot of times, a lot of times in the black community, especially with black men, they don't go to the doctor like they're supposed to.
right.
And so they can have health problems that they are unaware of, and they trying to use these heavy drugs and end up dead on the first use. And so now there are some people who are just pros when it comes down to it. And a lot of drug dealers are not drug users. They have their testers for that. They just sell the dope.
The smart ones.
And some of them, they cook it, they sell it, but
And,
they never use it.
and some of them cook it, sell it, and use it.
Right.
Them the broke ones. None of the ones that you'll never see get nothing more than a Crown Vic with rims on it, a trailer, and well Jordan. That they be them, the ones that be getting high off their own supply.
But
Yeah.
there are some of them for those people who manufacture meth. To me, in my eyes, they're chemists because everybody can't do that. And for a person to be able to manufacture meth without causing an explosion, because it's basically a bomb. That's what meth is, a bomb. You're literally putting a bomb in your veins or up your nose, or you're smoking a bomb. And you have to know what you're doing in order to manufacture meth and to not cause an explosion. I worked with one guy. He was so good at making meth, he could make meth in a water bottle.
Damn.
Yes, a water bottle. And he know what to substitute. If he don't have this, he can use this. A&E did a documentary of Marshall County, Alabama. Marshall County is known as Meth Mountain. And this particular guy, he was from Marshall County. And so he was telling me that if he out somewhere and he want to get high, He know how to put his stuff in a water bottle and mix something up and put him some meth together. But in his home, he had a meth lab. And he told me that now he didn't just manufacture meth, he used meth. So he making the product, using the product, and selling the product.
Right.
So he was telling me that his normal ingredients, one drop of sweat could cause an explosion. So he had to really know what he was doing. And so when you cooking meth, you got heat in the room. It ain't gonna take much for you to sweat.
Right.
But at the same time, you can't let a certain amount of air come into the room because that could cause an explosion. Or when the fumes make its way out the house and people smelling this unusual smell in the neighborhood, the police get called. And so you basically you're kind of in a mess. And so he said that he had got him one of them plastic body suits,
I'm scared of that. I'm scared of that.
and it had like the little the plastic face part. Well,
Like a hazmat suit.
yeah. So if he sweats, the sweat won't fall into the chemistry set.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Whew. Well, we're gonna wrap this interview up, y'all, because we can sit here. I can sit here and talk about this all day, because we got crackheads in the family. But we love them just the same.
Let me say this, parents, if you have children who you feel have too much energy, let them go outside and play. That's what we had to do. That's what I had to do coming up. Go outside and play. Let them play. Run around, get dirty, get little cuts in their hands and splinters.
Sit down with a tablet all day or a cell phone all day. They want to get up and do what children naturally do, which is run. That don't mean they need to be on medicine. That mean they don't want to be grown like you and sit down and be sorry and be on the phone all day. They want to do what children do, run. They hype.
Let them run out that energy. Get them in sports in the school, or if there's an area pee-wee team or t-ball, little stuff that might have coaches, outside the school activities. They're not necessarily playing sports for the school, but community activities. Get them in some stuff like that. Don't just put them on these drugs.
Right.
Because you're really doing a disservice in the long run. Once they get grown and get out there on their own, you need for them to be productive. Now, if you're going to keep them in the house with you after they get grown, that is your business. But as far as them getting out here in the world and functioning on a job, making some legitimate money, they need to be prepared for that.
Right.
And if you getting them medicated and keeping them medicated while they're in school, then what you think gonna happen when they get grown? It is your job to prepare them for what's next. They ain't gonna stay in school forever.
Right.
Once they get grown, they're gonna spend the rest of their lives being grown, and you ain't gonna want to take care of them. So parents, I'm talking to you. Let these children get out there and do what children do. Play, get dirty, tear up their clothes, get dirt in their hair, break their little fingernails, get splinters and little cuts and tears and all of it.
Well, y'all heard it from a professional. Basically, the sum of what she's saying is all these children don't have mental problems, and all of these children are not overly hyper. A lot of times parents, especially younger parents, and as the generations get older, the parents aren't like go outside and play. They're more like the world is going to technology, huh? Kids know how to use a cell phone when they want. They know how to get on YouTube. And that shouldn't be normal. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't be normal, and it is. 1 and 2 year old kids know how to work the phone to get to their favorite show, and that we need to look at that as a whole, and we need to realize that that's not normal. A 1 or 2 year old shouldn't be, and then they are addicted to the phones at this age. They're already addicted. Take their phone. Take the phone. When they be mad, let me fight. They'll fight you for the phone. So go ahead.
If it's raining, or if you just want to keep them in the house, teach them how to write in cursive. Teach them how to read the hands on a clock, because today these children don't know how to read the hands on a clock.
Or writing cursive because they don't. It's not required.
Teach them how to put clothes on the clothesline. If the lights go out, or should I say, when the lights go out, ain't no cell phone.
Right.
Ain't no dishwasher.
Right.
Ain't no dryer. So teach these kids the basics. For when the lights go out, they'll know how to survive in the dark. They'll know how to manage and maneuver in the dark if you want to keep them in the house. Now, putting them in front of the tablet, in front of the computer and all of that, give them a book to read if you want to keep them in the house.
Right.
Keep their mind going. An idle mind is the devil's playground. And when you giving these children these cell phones for them to be on the internet, learning how to cook dope and make bombs
and suck dick. That's the truth. Pornhub. That's the truth.
getting them exposed, have those necessary talks. What happened to that talk about the birds and the bees, the flowers and the trees? Some of y'all just hauling these children off to the health department. You ain't having no type of conversation.
Right.
Talk to them, not ask them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between talking to a person and talking at a person. These kids today, these kids ask questions that I wouldn't dare ask. Since these children are brave enough to ask these questions, you need to come up with some real answers. Don't be feeding them no bull crap.
Right.
Because either they're going to learn it from you or they're going to learn it from the street.
Right.
And so it's called preparing them for what's real. And when they get to asking these questions, some of these questions, yeah, they're hard, but they're necessary. These are necessary conversations. And you need to be the one to tell your child.
Right. All right. Okay. You gonna have to come back on here, girl, because we could talk about it's so many areas of mental health and substance abuse and how sexual abuse can cause mental health problems and all kind of stuff. So it's a lot of ground that we can cover, and I'm definitely gonna have you back on the show.
And relationship counseling. For all the male watchers, for all the men who are watching, you are not always the problem.
Woo, child, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna have you back on to talk about it. We're gonna have you back on here to talk about it. But thank you so much, Lacosta, aka Fat. We call her Fat. Thank you so much,
Nanny.
But thank you so much for coming on here, cuz I really appreciate it. And thank y'all so much for being on here, and thank y'all so much for watching today. And y'all know I love y'all. I love everybody that love me. And if you don't, I always hit you with a whip. Bye. I'll see y'all later.